to talk about personality traits and remote working because I think one of the really interesting things about looking at traits is their impact on kind of performance and work outcomes. And I've talked about that a lot in different videos and in previous videos. But what I haven't done is talk about that in the context of remote working, because we can see remote working as its own kind of unique environment, right? There's some commonalities, there's some conditions that people have when they're working either remotely or working from home that are a lot different from a traditional office. So if we look at conscientiousness, for example, conscientiousness is about how someone kind of thinks, acts, and plans, and how self-motivated they are. So someone who's highly conscientious tends to be good at long-term planning, tends to be quite good at managing their own schedules, and motivating themselves for the day and the week and beyond. So we see people with really high conscientiousness tend to be more effective at remote working if they're left alone. So if they need to motivate themselves, if they need to come up with their own schedule, their own deliverables, and their own kind of performance metrics, they tend to be able to do that better independently. So people with high conscientiousness tend to be better at self-managing in that context. And so if you put people in a remote working or a home working environment, they tend to be better able to manage that on their own. Whereas people with lower conscientiousness often need some sort of external driver, external motivator to help push them forward. And if they're not in a traditional office, someone with low conscientiousness who would normally enjoy being around people who help them focus on their schedules, focus on their deliverables, they might have a manager who's helping them kind of make sure they're meeting their outcomes. It's more challenging when someone with low conscientiousness like that is in their home working environment. So often what they're going to need is to bring some of those motivators that helped them in their traditional office environment or whatever environment they were successful in into that remote working environment. So if you can bring those kind of external motivators into the home office, it's going to help someone with lower conscientiousness be more effective. Because the thing about these personality traits is there's kind of optimal conditions for bringing out the best in everyone, but it can be very different. So sometimes with a manager, you might need that manager or even different members of the team to be checking in on people more often, whether it's at the beginning of the day or end of day. Different people might prefer different times for check-in, but you're going to need to be able to manage that person more actively. You're going to need to be able to manage that person to have more clear and specific timeframes, deliverables, whatever the project kind of management criteria and performance criteria are. But depending on that personality trait, you could manage different people very differently, obviously. But if you want people to be successful, you really need to know their level of conscientiousness, and you need to know how much external motivation, external supervision, and accountability they need, because it's going to really vary depending on the person.